Yo, what's up guys? You got pokeaim here with a video on the new moves that we'll be getting from Pokemon Gold and Silver that will be transferable on Pokemon to Pokemon Sun and Moon as well as Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon. So if you guys didn't know, in September we're going to be getting Pokemon Gold and Silver on the Virtual Console, which means that they will be available for our 3DS, and these are confirmed transferable through Pokebank, which means that we can get them on Pokemon Sun and Moon as well as Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon. Now before I actually get into the list of Pokemon with new moves, I'll only be talking about the ones that are worth talking about, in my opinion anyway, at least as far as a competitive stance. But I will be leaving a list down below in the description if you guys want to see at least more in depth the Pokemon that are listed. And I want to give a big shout out to my boy McMegan who put this list together for me. Thank you so much, bro. So the list isn't really exhaustive. It's more so like there's two moves that are really widely spread, and I wanted to talk about them and at least a few Pokemon that got them and how they would maybe affect the Pokemon. Now keep in mind that these Pokemon are only, or these moves rather, are only legitimate with the hidden abilities of these Pokemon. Because if it's anything like RBY Virtual Console, it's only available with the hidden abilities of the Pokemon when we got them. So this means that if I talk about, let's say, Espeon, if it gets a certain move, it's only available, which it does get, which is Zap Cannon, it's only available in Magic Bounce Espeon, which is pretty cool. But in any case, the first move that we will be talking about is Curse. Now, Curse is actually widely spread in Gold and Silver, and there are a few Pokemon that can actually abuse this. I want to talk about Porygon 2 first. So Porygon 2 can actually abuse Curse as an ability. Now previously, or at least in this generation, Porygon 2 did not have any boosting moves. What Porygon 2 was known for doing was being a tank, which is a Pokemon that can take hits as well as dish them out. Due to the Eviolite, it of course boosts its defense and special defense by 1.5. But with Analytic, Porygon is actually able to run Curse, and this is pretty cool because Porygon does have access to Recover as a recovery move, as well as now a boosting move in Curse, and with the option of even running Return or even Facade. And Facade is pretty cool on a boosting mon, especially when with Recover, because I don't care if I get burnt, I don't care if I get poisoned or paralyzed, I can still do the damage, and mainly burn, because burn halves your attack. In Porygon's case, if it runs like something like Curse Facade, I could see that having a little bit of usage if it wants to test it out. And then as its last move, unfortunately, Porygon doesn't really have the, I want to say it doesn't really have the best physical move pool, but it's not a physical Pokemon for the most part. But it does have the options of running something like Curse plus Shadow Ball, and a Shadow Ball would allow you to hit Ghost types, which otherwise Facade doesn't allow you to hit. So this is pretty cool because Porygon also has base 80 attack, and with Analytic gives the damage, multiplies it times 1.3 power if it moves last in that turn, which is pretty cool with Curse because Curse will be lowering your speed while raising your attack and defense at the same time. So it will be boosting Porygon's not only its attack but already great defense, which is already boosted by the Eviolite. So this is definitely a threat that can be coming out of it, and I could see something like that plus like a mixed one with Shadow Ball. It's not like you really care about speed on this mon anyway, so you could run like maybe like a Spadef boosting nature. And there'll definitely be like hard tailored EV spreads for this, but this is something that I could see happening. And maybe I'll have something different on your screen, but I think the best way to show you is to show you on Pokemon Showdown, because I can actually go through the moveset. So I can see something like this being ran on Porygon. Shadow Ball, of course, allowing you to hit the Ghost types. That Facade does not let you hit because that is Stab, but I think this would be really cool on Porygon, and definitely bring something new than the standard Bolt Beam Porygon that we are used to seeing with like Thunderbolt and Ice Beam and whatnot with Recover, and then even Trick Room. It even gives Porygon a chance to abuse Trick Room itself, which it can already do with its special attack, but now even with Curse and making it slower than most Trick Room abusers in itself. So I think that's a pretty cool option that we do have a Porygon. And of course, I do want to know your thoughts down below on whatever Pokemon I end up talking about. Like I said, I'm only going to be briefly going through a few of them, which I feel are impactful, or have an impact rather. So Another Pokemon that gets cursed, which I think is pretty cool, is Tangrowth. Now, Tangrowth is a really good Pokemon in Pokemon Sun and Moon, and I have no idea how Pokemon Ultra Sun and Pokemon Ultra Moon will be affecting its usage, but in Pokemon Sun and Moon, it is one of the best Assault Vest users, one of the best physically defensive walls, or tanks rather, in the game. And of course, with its hidden ability being regenerated, it just works a lot better for it. So it does now have the option, or it will have the option come September, of Curse. And this is pretty cool on a Pokemon that does have reliable recovery in Synthesis. It does also have Swords Dance as well. So it does obviously already have a boosting option, but this option is pretty cool because it boosts its defense, and Tangrowth isn't a Pokemon that cares about speed at all, and cursing up, allowing it to better take on Pokemon like Mega Medicham, cursing alongside maybe set up mons like Dragon Dance, Dragonite, could probably even take a Supersonic Sky Strike if it curses up enough, but this could be a cool option on this mon, just giving it, or just adding more to its move pool that I already have. Like a set that we always see right now is like Hidden Power Ice, Giga Drain knockoff and whatnot, but I could see a curse set definitely being ran, at least for this Pokemon in particular. Another mon that can now abuse curse as well, or could when this is released, is Rhyperior. Of course, Rhyperior doesn't get to run it with Solid Rock. As far as I know, it's only available with its hidden ability. I'm not quite sure how that works via breeding, because I actually haven't like bred for myself in a while. Usually people will breed for me, or I get my Pokemon made, depending. But the fact that Rhyperior can get this does give it, of course, another boosting option as well. Though it does have Swords Dance, like I said. But maybe on like a Trick Room team, this could be pretty cool. Not only boosting its defense and making it just that much more of a tank. Another cool Pokemon that gets this, or a few other cool Pokemon, are Machamp, which does give it, again, that option of running Trick Room as well. Machamp was known to run Curse in Pokemon Gold, Silver Crystal, or GSC 80, GSC OU, rather, with like Curse, Cross Chop, Hidden Power Bug, or Hidden Power Dark, depending, and then Earthquake or something like that, Rock Slide, depending on the last move. And again, this does give Machamp a cool option of Curse. It does have access to Bulk Up already, but this can make it more so of a Trick Room abuser, because it does have slow speed at base 55, so like a Brave speed nature. But this is outpaced by Pokemon that are obviously stored in this, but Curse giving it that option of lowering its speed while also raising its attack and defense. Of course, this is only available with Steadfast Machamp as far as I know. So you won't be going for Curse Dynamic Punches, but you do have the option, of course, Close Combat, which will be lowering your defenses as you're boosting them. And of course, Cross Chop if you want to use a more inaccurate move. But Machamp does have a few moves that can definitely abuse this. Arcanine is another Pokemon that does have access to Curse, and this is super cool because Arcanine is already a really bulky Pokemon in its own right. Of course, this is due to Intimidate, which you will not have, but a Curse, I can see a Curse Rest Sleep Talk set with Flare Blitz being ran, or Curse like Extreme Speed, Flare Blitz. This could be a really cool option on this mon. Justified being the ability that you can run it with, also just being able to be boosted when hit with Dark type moves. But Curse is pretty cool on Arcanine, especially when you pack that with something like Extreme Speed, having priority. So this is a really cool option again that Arcanine gets. Another Pokemon that I thought was pretty cool was the Nidoqueen. Nidoqueens are really bulky. Having Curse to boost its Earthquake. Of course, it would only be able to run this with Poison Point, or excuse me, with Sheer Force. So Poison Jab would be boosted because of Sheer Force. You could run Bulldoze instead of Earthquake, but it's not that much bigger. It's not that much stronger. If not, it's not stronger at all. If I'm not mistaken, it's only 60 base power. Yeah, so it's not stronger with Sheer Force. But Earthquake, Poison Jab, Crunch is pretty cool because it allows you to deal with the levitating mons. Like I'm just thinking about like Miss Magus and whatnot, depending on the tier where it is. But this is really good coverage with like Curse. Also having access to, I'm not quite sure how the elemental punches will be distributed with this, but Sheer Force plus Curse on Nidoqueen. Charizard also being a Pokemon that can get it, giving it some other options as well to be able to abuse that. Maybe like a Tank Zard X instead of Dragon Dance, like a Curse one. Not quite sure how viable that's going to be, at least on Charizard, especially because it does have Swords Dance, and Dragon Dance. And a few previous Pokemon we talked about did have Swords Dance as well, but I think Charizard's one of the Pokemon that also has Taxes to Tailwind that has base 100 speed that can definitely abuse it. And there are a bunch more Pokemon that get cursed. Mewtwo, Meganium, Lantern, Scizor, Shuckle, Heracross, Donphan, a few cool abusers like that, Electivire, Kingdra, Weezing, and as well as Blastoise. And I'll leave the link or the list down below, but those are the few that I want to talk about. Now, another move that some Pokemon do get, and before we actually get into the actual full move, because this move starts with Z, so I'm going to try and be in alphabetical order, I want to talk about some cool little moves that Pokemon also get. The option of Dragon's Breath. Charizard actually gets Dragon's Breath now, and in Pokemon Black and White, at least in 5th Gen OU when we first started, there were a few Pokemon, or at least even in the previous generation, there were Pokemon like, in 6th Gen, there were Pokemon like Altaria that sometimes ran Body Slam, with Pixelate, of course, making it Fairy Stab, but also giving you the option of Paralysis. So Dragon Breath is actually a cool option on Charizard as well, because on like a tankier set, like let's say Charizard X, Tanksard X, Dragon Breath, it does have good special attack. It's base 130 special attack. So Dragon Breath would be Stab, and I could see maybe like, even with Fairy types running around, I could see something like this being ran just for Paralysis, just for the pure option of Paralysis. So something like Dragon Breath, Roost, Flare Blitz / Fire Punch, and then either Will-O-Wisp or something like that. So maybe like a sort of dual status or dual support type of thing. And you might be thinking, oh well, isn't Dragon Breath terrible, man? It's only 60 base power. Why not run Dragon Pulse if you're running special? Well, it's just that 30% chance to actually paralyze the opponent. And speed control is definitely really important in competitive mods. So I can see something like a tankier set like this being ran. Also, Charizard Y can run it, allowing it to 2-hit KO Latios 100% after rocks, and most of the time with Fire Blast into that. And again, the main reason of running this over something like it actually does have Dragon Pulse, and even though the main set is always going to be Fire Move, Solar Beam, Roost, and then last move can vary between Tailwind, Focus Blast, Hidden Power Ice for Zygarde and Garchomp, Landorus, or Earthquake if you want to hit Heat Ray. Dragon Breath is a cool option because it does give you that chance to paralyze your opponent. That's very, very important. Another cool, of course this is only can be ran with Solar Power, but that doesn't really matter too much because Charizard's previous ability doesn't matter so much when it Mega Evolves. Mega Charizard Y gets, of course, Drought, and Mega Charizard X gets Tough Claw, so it doesn't matter so much on this mod. Another cool move that that some Pokemon get is Encore. Well, specifically Donphan. Donphan actually has Encore in its move pool, as well as, of course, Curse. But Encore is pretty cool because a lot of physical Pokemon, I'll give you the option of like maybe in the lower tiers, a Pokemon like Florges might come in on Donphan's Earthquake and then try and wish it off and protect. Donphan can then Encore that into that, or maybe a mom might try and set up on Donphan just knowing that it can have Earthquake. Of course, this is only available at Sandvale as far as I know, but Donphan can use the option of Encore, leave your opponent in a, or lock your opponent into a setup move. So maybe like a Florges trying to Combine, Synthesis, Wish Pass, it's now locked into that move, and you can just switch out and abuse that. So that's a pretty cool option that Donphan does have. Pursuit. And of course, when going back to Curse, there are some other birds, like there are the 3 birds, like Articuno, Moltres, and Zapdos that get it. There's, I believe, I don't want to say Suicune, Entei. Yes. Raikou, Suicune, Entei also get Curse. And I think that's really important as well. Sorry, the list was like, let's scroll down. We'll go back to that really briefly. But Raikou, Suicune, and Entei get Curse. Unfortunately, Entei won't be able to run that with extreme speed, as far as I know, or at least even Sacred Fire, because those were event moves on Raikou, and I don't know how, as far as how event moves would go from at least GSC. That'd be pretty cool though, because then we get like Lovely Kiss Nidoqueen and like Lovely Kiss Snorlax, which would be pretty busted, but really fun to use. I would like Sheer Force, Lovely Kiss, Nidoqueen. That'd be pretty cool. But Entei, Raikou, and Suicune all get Curse. Curse is really cool, especially on Suicune, though they would have to run it with their new hidden ability, which would be Inner Focus. Unfortunately, they don't have Unfortunately, they don't have like Water Absorb anymore, Flash Fire, and Suicune would really miss out on pressure with that, but that could be pretty cool. Lugia and Ho also get cursed, and that's pretty nasty, at least on Ho's case, because Ho runs that Regenerator. You can have Brave Bird, Sacred Fire, so that'd be pretty cool, giving Ho a boosting option, at least on the physical side, that it didn't really have before. And same thing with Lugia. Lugia's already fat enough as is. Celebi also gets cursed, but not quite sure how much that will affect Celebi, since it also has Swords Dance, it also has Calm Mind, it also has Nasty Plot. Moves that can abuse it. But of course, I do want some discussion on these Pokemon. Now, Pursuit is an option that Pokemon such as Electivire, Rhyperior, as well as, I believe that's it from the list itself, that these two can get. But Electivire and Rhyperior do have access to Pursuit, which is cool if you're forcing switches. For example, in the lower tiers with Electivire, maybe a Rotom will want to switch out so you can Pursuit Trap that thing, because Rotom obviously would not want to go for, though you only have Vital Spirit, Rotom wouldn't want to go for an Electric move versus you before it sees Pursuit, so it wouldn't know that you'd be Vital. It wouldn't know that you'd be Vital Spirit, and they wouldn't want to Volt Switch because you do have Water Drive, so you can force them out, Pursuit them. Though Rotom, be careful because they can just Will-O-Wisp you, but it's just a cool little option. Maybe trapping this Magus in the lower tiers. Same thing with Rhyperior. Of course, you can only run it with Reckless, but Pursuit is an option of dealing with even Pokemon again like Rotom. That don't necessarily, if their choice lock can't Volt Switch on you, Shadow Ball isn't going to be doing too much if you are a tank, if you are Spadef as well. So that's a pretty cool option. Now, another previously illegal set is actually Azumarill with Sap Sipper plus Whirlpool. And I actually know this from experience because I used this in the tournament, but Sap Sipper plus Whirlpool is illegal. But now being able to have Whirlpool as well as the ability Sap Sipper is pretty big on Azumarill, because with Sap Sipper, you get an immunity as well as a +1 attack, but you grant an immunity to grass type attacks. So Azumarill can switch in freely on Serperior, boosting with Contrary, Leaf Storm, stopping it from doing that. Switching freely on Ferrothorn, going for Leech Seed, going for Power Whip, and what it can do is Whirlpool and Perish Song Trap. It can Whirlpool, Perish Song Trap Pokemon, because Whirlpool lasts from 4 to 5 turns, which is just enough for you to Whirlpool turn 1 and then Perish Song Pokemon, and then Protect Stall. And basically this means that an Azumarill, a defensive one, can 1v1 Serperior, can 1v1 Ferrothorn, can 1v1 Grass types with this. So this is pretty big for Azumarill. It was previously illegal. You could only use this on a thick fat set. You couldn't basically use Whirlpool plus Sap Sipper. So it's pretty cool that Azumarill now does get this in its moveset, in its arsenal, and I'm excited to be using this. I've used it a few times in tournaments before, and I got like disqualified in the battle, but thankfully my opponent was nice, because I didn't know that Sap Sipper plus Whirlpool was illegal, because this was back on PO when we could actually play with this, or Showdown rather, when this was actually available for us to play with. So it's pretty cool that Azumarill does get that. Now the last move that a lot of Pokemon get is Zap Cannon. Now you might be thinking, well, Zap Cannon is terrible, it's 50% accurate, but you're right, you're 100% right, it is 50% accurate, but Pokemon like Umbreon previously ran this in Gold and Silver a few times. I've seen them, and this would allow them to paralyze Pokemon like Tyranitar coming in, Pokemon like Skarmory, and it's not necessarily for the chance of killing them, but also that 100% paralysis chance. So I could see a Pokemon like Umbreon running this with like Wish. They would have to obviously run Inner Focus, but maybe like Wish, Protect, Foul Play, whatnot, and Zap Cannon is just to punish Pokemon upon switching, because Umbreon, of course, Heal Bell is the option that would normally run, and Inner Focus, it can't be flinched, it doesn't have it synchronized. It kind of sucks because what Umbreon is good at doing is if it actually absorbs status, it would pass it on to its opponent with Synchronize, and also Heal Bell off. But I can see something like this being ran just as a little support option. A few Pokemon that get it, Raichu, Pikachu, Alakazam, Clefable, Gengar, Slowking, and Slowbro, Rhyperior, Electivire, Gyarados. Gyarados also gets cursed, by the way. That's a really cool option on Gyarados as well. But Gyarados also gets cursed. All the Eevees, so Jolteon, Flareon, Espeon, Umbreon, Dragonite gets it, Mewtwo gets it, Lantern gets it, Mismagius gets it, Ho and Lugia both get it, but it's a pretty cool option. I think. I mean, I said that a lot about these things, but you know, I love Pokemon, so if I see something that's cool, I'm gonna say it's cool. But it's an interesting option because yes, it is only 50% accurate, but that 100% chance to paralyze your opponent is really nice on especially these fat mons like Umbreon that can tank hits and then just wear down your opponent and paralyze your opponent if they try to set up or punish them for trying to switch in. So I think it's an interesting option that's not necessarily used for the power of it, but if it does hit, it 100% paralyzes your opponent. So anyway, I do want to know your thoughts on these mods. I can see something like Starmie running Zap Cannon with maybe like gravity or whatnot, and obviously Starmie would abuse this with the analytic, which it would be its hidden ability. So I could see something like, and this is a set that's actually been ran, at least not this, but it's replaced Zap Cannon with Thunder and something like this. I've seen sets like this ran. I've actually used sets like this gravity. I've actually used a set like this on Starmie and replaced Zap Cannon with Thunder, but what this does is, obviously, it doesn't have the accuracy that Zap Cannon does, or Thunder has with gravity, but it does have that 100% chance to paralyze. So I think it's a pretty cool option that, again, these Pokemon do have. And yeah, so I do want to know your thoughts on these. Like I said, I'll be leaving the list down below. Shout out to my boy McMegan. You can discuss them in the comments because I only briefly went over all these. But if you do have some opinions on them, obviously I want to see them. And yeah, in any case, guys, I'll see y'all later. Feel free to subscribe, leave a like. Goodbye, friends.